The time has come to go to space, take the first satellite orbital, and then do a metric crap ton of science by cramming all the science we could in a craft that we will be sending into the Kerbin's orbit. So join us today as we embark on this epic journey of science collection, orbital rocketry, and all these concepts. However, first we're gonna build the first Kerbin's artificial satellite. And we're gonna be using the probe core. Stay put, Nick. I wonder why. Nothing comes to mind. Anyway, we're gonna be using the probe core. We obviously need the reaction wheels. We need some communitrons to communicate outwards. And I figured what better way than to put 3 in all the relevant places to pay homage to the Earth's first actual satellite. Yeah. Now, speaking of that, we're gonna be cramming a little bit of science experiments, those that we actually can, and that will be the thermometer and the barometer. And that one is gonna be called Orbiter 1. Yes, so that's the payload. Long story short. And actually, I might cram in just a couple of solar panels because, well, I don't want it running out of energy anytime soon. So, yeah, that might be handy. And once it has performed its mission, it will also act as a RemoteTech relay. Yeah. So, speaking of that, let's put it onto the adapter fairing, cram it in. Well, see, easy does it. No problem whatsoever. So then we're gonna be putting a fuel tank, and this time I'm gonna be putting the pug again. Yes, previous episode we put the pug, and it won't kind of flippity-flip on us. However, it is all good. Today we're gonna be going to orbit. The difference between space and orbit, for those of you who are not familiar with Kerbal Space Program or orbital rocketry, is in orbit means that it stays above Kerbin at a certain altitude. It's in constant fall, which is called the orbit, and the Kerbin is essentially like sliding from underneath it. So it's constantly trying to fall while Kerbin is not there. Yeah, sorry. Sounds like a bad explanation. I don't know how to explain it better, but anyway, there we go. We are gonna go upwards, and we have prepared this milk stool for the purpose of it. Now, having said that, we're gonna be putting in the additional antenna on this side, just in case we ever need to, send it, control it, whatever, so it doesn't flip. This takes a little bit time to build, and first we have some basic science that is actually completing as this beautiful day draws by. And soon enough, the orbital 1 was ready. Let's go to launch. Beautiful shot, and 3, 2, 1, and ignition. There we go. Small rocket, however, it's going straight and true, unlike the previous flippity flip-flops of the past era. Having said that, the goal for today is that this rocket should ultimately go in and cover both Kerbin low and high orbit. So we're not exactly doing the profile of the Sputnik 1, but we are rather going into cover for the science gathering of these two experiments that we're going to do. And remember, we also have the telemetry, so it's going to be 3 experiments altogether. Telemetry as sent by probe, temperature, and atmospheric pressure scan. Yeah, so we're tilting 90 degrees, and we are hoping to get to 100 by 100 apoapsis to start with, and then we're gonna be just expanding it to past 300 kilometer mark, marking the high orbit. I think it's 300 kilometer, maybe it's more, I don't know. Anyway, there we go. So speaking of that, we are en route, and our apoapsis has just crossed the Kármán line, which means we are going to space, and now we just have to make sure that we are going to orbit, and we will do that by raising the periapsis above the 100 or above the 70 kilometer mark, which is the Kármán line in this case, but I'm gonna be shooting for 100 or onwards. So the rocket engine is off, and we're just gonna coast to the apoapsis, where we will be igniting the motor once again to, circularize. So right now I'm setting up a maneuver node to secure that how much, to get the estimate of how long do we have to burn and in which direction, which will be present on the nav ball. Nav ball being the blue orb at the bottom. I don't know, I mean, a lot of people that watch my content do know Kerbal Space Program and orbital mechanics, but I figured just to clarify a couple of points there. There we go. Now, speaking of that, let's point maneuver prograde, which means in the direction of the maneuver, and we will be burning just as we reach the apoapsis. We have 1,559 meters per second to burn, which means we will need to burn horizontally until we reach that velocity, at which point we will be in orbit permanently around Kerbin. Yes. On Earth it's a little bit different because there is some still orbital decay and all that stuff, because of the different factors affecting from Earth. However, in Kerbin, with the patched conics, it is, once you place it in that orbit, it will be staying there, so there is no orbital decay. I don't know, guys, do let me know in the comments, is there an orbital decay mod, maybe? Anyway, I'm playing with a huge list of mods, and I have seen you guys requesting the mod list. I will be providing it, hopefully in the comments below, or I will be linking to my Reddit where I usually post my mod list. So, having said that, we are on the final circularization. The rest of the rocket is gonna be falling down back to Kerbin to be smashed somewhere in the ocean, while the rest is just gonna go into an orbit above Kerbin, which should be happening right about now-ish. And as you can tell, it's not a 100 by 100 orbit, it's more like 70 by 400 orbit, which is an elliptical orbit, which is good because it will allow us to cover science from both low Kerbin orbit and high Kerbin orbit. And look at this beautiful detach. I think this probe actually looks cool. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Speaking of that, there we go. If you see this flash, that's actually me taking a screenshot. It's not a bug, it's a feature. However, we are gonna be fast forwarding it until we cross the threshold of the high altitude, so we can actually perform some science. And as my X-Science mod in the top left corner tells me, it tells me that I should be right about now triggering the science experiment. So let's see, what do we have? We have the press button barometer, log, and transmit. We do have enough electric charge to be able to transmit that experiment. What do we have? Then we have telemetry. We're going to be transmitting that as well, and then we're going to be transmitting the temperature scan. Right. So also we have to take a note and orient our solar panels just to make sure that we secure that we do get enough solar power so the pads get recharged. Let me just check and see electric charge. Oh, we are very low on the electric charge, but it's fine. We are getting powered, so we are getting some electricity, so we can rotate the probe so it gets more charge. And as it goes around Kerbin, it will be soon fully charged, meaning we will be able to perform some more experiments and get some cool selfies. Flying above the KSC, there we go, looks cool. Alright, so switching to the view, let's see, can we do the more log pressure data? Was there an experiment that actually didn't send? It's a good question. Let's see, log temperature, performance science, let's see, is there an experiment that we didn't do maybe? No, that's not the one. Okay, perform all science, reset, reset, reset. Okay, so all three experiments got sent. Well, I guess then that's it. We just now need to turn the satellite into the final position for a very cool selfie and probably the thumbnail of this episode. There we go. Beautiful. Right. So, with that thing being done, we are going to accelerate the time until the advanced rocketry tech gets built, because that technology holds the Terrier engine, and the Terrier engine we would need to get a bit better at launching stuff, and it's extremely fuel efficient. It's an engine that is mainly optimized for vacuum, which is great. And that's exactly what we need. So we also did get 50 science, so we would be able to unlock the general construction, which will unlock some experiments, magnetometer among others, and, well, you know, stuff that will be handy. And also the 1.25 Airstream protective shell for the fairing. Right. I think it's time that we right now go back to the vehicle assembly building and start building the second sciencer. And this one will be jam-packed with science experiments, which we will be able to do pretty much everywhere. So, probe core, battery, and this new machine is the science collector. So this is actually handy because it allows you to empty the science experiments so you can perform them again and again. Then I'm gonna be putting this truss where we will be putting all of our science experiments, and then the heat shield for the re-entry, because I do intend to return it back. After that, we're gonna be putting 1.25 meter adapter. We're gonna be putting another RemoteTech antenna, then the bigger antenna in case we get further away from Kerbal, which we will. We're going to be covering the high altitude. Then we're going to be putting materials bay. This experiment can only be done once unless reset by an engineer, so I really highly value the ability to perform it, and we're going to be probably doing it at high altitude above Kerbal. However, we will be able to transfer the science results to this machine, which actually holds all the experiments. So that's the reason for me excluding it, because it will be able to collect even the results from the experiments that are not on top of the probe, which we will return. Right, so I'm putting also these cameras, which I think it's kind of cool. One is the surface camera, another one is the orbital camera. Then the thermometer. I mean, we already did, but just in case we come into the situation where we haven't been, it's good to have some experiments at hand. Having said that, we're gonna be now focusing on building the fairing, and the fairing is 1.25 meter fairing, so it's actually quite a big one if you can tell. But yeah, and we're gonna jack up the ejection force and having the climb deploy on. This is the orbital sciencer one, yes, the orbital sciencer craft that will be performing the science. We're gonna put it on top of the Mothra, and we're gonna be putting the, where is my Merlin? No, not the Vesuvius engine, silly. Where's the Marlin? Yeah, there we go. So it's sort of like, you know, it's almost like Falcon 1 and Falcon 1 engine. Beside it, I have decided to put extra 2 solid rocket boosters, and I'm thinking to go with thumpers because I could use the extra Delta V 4.7. It might be enough, but 5.32 sounds a lot better, doesn't it? Also, it will be good for deceleration once we will be returning the craft, so that's also something to be considered. Now, we need 4 rocket fins, which we have gotten by unlocking, I think, the stability. And now I'm tweaking the thrust levels of the boosters, because when we ignite the first stage, it will be just the SRBs, because they're powerful enough to raise us high, so we don't need to be lighting the also other fuel engine. And right now I think it's time that we start looking into the launch tower, so I figured might as well, do a launch tower. So I'm gonna just quickly try and find the appropriate one. And through the magic of video editing, I've decided to save you the hassle of watching me picking one tower at a time, and where I've just collected this lovely tower. Looks cool, and I'm gonna be looking if I can have the, the fueling arm, so to say. So where do we have it? Yeah, actually, I mean, it's sticking out a little bit in the end, but who cares? It looks cool. I like it. It's simple enough and effective. Good. We're gonna start producing the rocket, and let's get to the launch. Now this rocket, I've observed that I haven't performed sciences from the launch pad. Silly me. So I have decided to perform all the science that I could at the launch pad, and then we're gonna be collecting experiments and then launching it, because no science should be left unperformed unless it's materials bay while landed at Kerbal at launch pad, because I'm not gonna waste my materials bay for that experiment. When it comes to mystery goo, I have plenty of them, so I have enough to be able to perform it, so might as well. Right, okay. Let's launch this sucker. And up it goes. Look how beautiful it looks, and it's going up against the heavens. I have no idea why the fairing looks golden rather than white, but it is what it is. Right, so now we can actually perform the mystery goo when flying low, and we're going to be collecting those experiments. So collect all. Yeah, see? And then we can decouple, or not decouple, we can unpin the mystery goo, because once consumed, that experiment is pretty much done. Right, okay, tilting ever so slightly. While this might be actually a stupid thing, tilting in this direction because of the aerial forces would cause the boosters to collide with the rocket, I'm pretty confident in the ejection force of this booster, so they don't hit immediately, as you saw yourselves. Right. So having said that, we are continuing our orbital ascent. We have another mystery goo that we could perform while flying high over Kerbal, which we have decided to do. Now, apoapsis high. Let's check. It's going past the 40-kilometer mark, which is beautiful, and we're gonna be continuing straight up until we reach the 100-kilometer apoapsis, at which point I'm gonna once again do the maneuver node that will be setting us. So this essentially is a sort of a repeat of the previous flight, because the previous flight has proven that this is possible, but now we're gonna be milking the science as much as we can. So that's gonna bring us into the amount of science, so we can unlock more advanced tech nodes, which we will need to go further places. And remember, all of this is being done unmanned. These are all probes, remotely controlled, and that's why it's important that they have both the electricity and the connectivity. Yes, RemoteTech is one of these wonderful mods that provides this extra level of difficulty or gameplay opportunities, depending on how you look at it, but I certainly enjoy it, and I know many of my viewers enjoy me playing with the RemoteTech. Later on, we're gonna be playing also with signal delay and everything there, so it's gonna be introducing another level of complexity, which I'm not gonna go into now, but suffice to say, if you have watched any of my previous series that I play with RemoteTech, then you will know. Alright, kicking off another burn, and soon enough we're gonna be ditching the fairing and continuing with the second stage, which will bring us to our ultimate orbit. By the way, guys, if you have come here, that means that you might actually like the video, in which I would like to invite you to do hit a like on that video, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you might subscribe so you don't miss out when the new episode of the Kerbal Space Program series comes out. So yeah, right, let us continue onwards to the video. So we are gonna log a lot of science at the moment, so right now I'm careful not to press, perform all science, because we don't need 5 mystery goos, so I'm doing them individually for the time being until I consume the mystery goos, because then I can just continue perform all science and collect all by the experiment storage unit. Okay, having said that, I have decided to activate the communitron, and the only experiment that I yet haven't done is obviously the materials study, which will happen once we cross the Kerbal altitude high. So, and that's going to be happening, I think, around 300 or something. Our apoapsis is currently at 612, and it is aligned so that we can take a very nice selfie. So, just in case we decided to make it the theme of the episode of the day. So, yeah, there we go. Now, time to accelerate the time and hopefully cross into this high altitude regime, which is gonna be happening right about now. Yeah, as told by the X-Science. Yeah, there we go. Now, let's do the materials bay and all the other experiments. Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Take a look at that. This requires a screenshot. Let me just align myself correctly. And I wanted to actually do control or, camera point to here, but I don't see. Control point, refold. No camera, point here. Interesting. All right. Anyway, it's time to take another selfie. We're gonna take it from here. Cool. And then it's time to milk the rest of the science as much as we can, and then we're gonna be performing the re-entry. Yes, we're gonna do maybe one more lap around Kerbal, and then we want to return these experiments for all shit and giggles, you know, because there's a lot of science to be had. So, coming in hot, I have decided to keep the rocket motor, and I'm gonna be pointing the whole rocket orbit retrograde, which means contrast to the actual heading, and then I'm gonna be hitting the burn hard just to decelerate enough so that our orbital velocity isn't all that great. Yeah, there we go. Hitting the saws as hard as we can just to decelerate, obviously. Now let's decouple. There we go. Once again, we want to point orbit retrograde because these experiments could easily burn up in the atmosphere, and we are accelerating on our descent. However, we have burned off quite a lot of energy when when decelerating with the Terrier, so hopefully it shouldn't be that dangerous. We did lose the Communitron there, and we did lose, I think, one mystery goo. However, everything is fine, and we still have connectivity. Or yeah, or we will have connectivity. Anyway, yeah, there we go. Yeah, probe has the connection. Cool. Now, having deployed this, let's go straight down, and I'm gonna accelerate this royally for your viewing pleasure. There you go. At this point, I got some anomaly, to be perfectly honest with you, because the probe sank to the bottom of the sea. Why? I have absolutely no idea. It went all the way down, but I was hoping it would come back up, and surely enough, after like a couple of minutes, it went up. I did lost a piece of the craft, but nothing overly important. So, all in all, I was able to recover the vessel and get 269 science. Obviously, I'm gonna consume everything. So, and we're gonna be investing a little bit of rockets into more rockets. So I'm thinking I want to be ultimately going further with the advanced construction for the fairings. I was thinking of going to advanced electrics, but maybe that might be too far out. I would almost rather go with the landing legs, because I might need the landing legs for the landers that I'm gonna be building soon enough, and then we're gonna be researching the heavy rocketry just to keep things interesting. By the way, guys, if the next video in the series is already out, you might actually see it in the pinned comment, but apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.